The first session is hosted by our partners and guests, IUCN, and let me welcome the first speaker, Paula, to the stage. Enjoy.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Apologies for being slow. Bear with me a little while. So welcome to this session. It's really my honor and pleasure. Before we deep dive into the subject, I just have an announcement for this group. We are experiencing huge delays with the people coming in. You know why? I don't have to tell you. Do you know who's coming to town today? So we will wait 4 more minutes, but I would like to take this opportunity to just take your questions, if any. What brought you to this session? What are your expectations? What would you like to leave the room with in terms of insights, knowledge? And let's take this opportunity to have a few minutes amongst us, the early birds who woke up and came on time. So my name is Paola. I work for the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and we are here today to talk about nature-based solutions, which I guess you are very familiar with. I'm accompanied by my colleague, Karangwa, who's the director of the Nature-Based Solution Hub at the Secretariat in Switzerland. If you have any questions, doubts, expectations, or anything you want to share with this group, let's take this time.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Dorota Retelska. I'm a scientist and I write a lot about climate change, extreme events and tipping points. And this week I wrote an article on another change of the climate system, which are clouds, low-level clouds, cooling clouds, which are dissipating. And it seems to be a feedback of the climate system, so it might accelerate climate change. And there are many things so that show that climate change could be faster than expected, the tipping points could be could happen faster than expected, and also taking into account the extreme event that already happened. I think it's going to be we'll see huge extreme events in the next 10 years. And, you know, the reason why I came to Davos is because these huge extreme events will probably totally destabilize, break the global economy. Roads will be damaged, cities will be destroyed, and people, I mean, it will totally, it will cost whole countries' budget. It will become impossible to rebuild roads and so on. And it's, I would like the economy to realize that it can only function in a stable climate.
So thank you very much. I think most of the audience here is sharing your concerns. And I've been attending and speaking at several events in the past couple of days, and this is a concern shared by everyone. And I think only through a nature-positive approach, we are going to be able to counter-effect those kind of... But we are all in it together, and we really need to take our own piece of responsibility to make sure that we bend the curve, and we move from nature negative, as we are right now, to nature positive. I don't know if anyone else in the room would like to address the point raised by our colleague. Any other comments or questions? Do you have any questions about the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN?
I think that that kind of sharing that we just hear is very toxic on so many levels, and on a psychic level first, and when someone adopts such a position, what most humans tend to do is to close up. So maybe it's to see how we can reframe the storytelling in a way that people stay open to it, because that's something that I see very much also in the climate change discussion. If we want people to be engaged, we need to adopt a language that is more positive, I would say.
Anyone who would like to address this point about reframing communication in a more positive way, remaining realistic and pragmatic, but turning probably communication around action rather than inaction and inertia? Anyone else who would like to?
I know that there was a psychology studies that showed that people, if people think that climate is very bad, they will be paralyzed or give up. And it was done like 30 or 40 years ago. And the last 30 years, people try to be positive. I mean, I love nature. I'm totally for, natural materials, vegan food, and so on. But I think it also happens that economy didn't care about being positive and liking plant food, and they need facts. They need plain facts. But I'm totally for a positive lifestyle and all the solutions.
So thank you. There was another hand raised, I'm not sure. No, that's fine. So you give me a sign when we are ready to start, because we are under time pressure. Off we go. Okay. So again, welcome to the people in this room and to the people online who couldn't make it here. Thank you so much for joining us from wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. We are here today, and I feel honored and humbled to open this session, which has a very intriguing title and is about advancing credible nature-based solutions for a sustainable and resilient future. This is what we are here for. This session is organized by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature in partnership with In-Finitude. We will have a very dynamic conversation, what we hope is going to reach you, and we all leave this room with a common goal of addressing those kind of issues. It's going to be about high-integrity nature-based solutions, and now they can provide also benefits for people, planet, and climate issues around the world. The setup is very simple today. I please ask everyone to be on time, because we really have nearly 2 hours, and we are also starting a little bit late. We will start with some key opening remarks and presentations from esteemed panelists, and then it will be followed by a panel discussion moderated by my colleague Charles Karangwa, and then we will get into the Q&A. Note down your questions. We will address them towards the end, and otherwise I think a QR code will be displayed at the end of the panel. You can stay in touch, you can connect with us, and we are more than happy to continue the conversation after that. Without further, and I also need to acknowledge the support and the presence throughout the panel and in the room of IKID, AXA Group, In-Finitude, of course, our partners, SCOR, Blueyou, and this is a tricky one, Twahirwa Foundation. Okay, hope I pronounced it well. Let me invite now to the stage Professor Thomas Anderson, who's the president of IKID. IKID stands for International Organization for Knowledge, Economy, and Enterprise Development. I hope I pronounced it well. Before that, Professor Anderson held very high-level position in several respected institutions like OECD. He's also visiting professor at Harvard and in many other academic institutions. He's going to walk us through the challenges and opportunity of MBS and investments in this field, and he's going to tell us more about the development of the pipeline of MBS solution. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Professor Anderson.
So, good morning, everyone. And thank you first for the invitation from IUCN to be here and have the, not quite the pleasure, but the task of addressing this huge subject that we have in front of us. And of course, we already had an appropriate start with some, in a sense, perhaps pessimistic, but unfortunately also realistic observations about the seriousness of the situation we're in, and reflections how we move forward from here. Now, I obviously don't have much time, so I will just be able to give you a couple of snapshots from my end about, what is the issue here. How can we find a way forward that is proportional to this challenge that we're up against. Okay, so let me see if this works. The next one, all right. Yes. So now, what are we dealing with here? We cannot just, judge the situation from a just instantaneous observation. This is a long path. It's an ongoing process we're dealing with, and really what it boils down to is this dichotomy between, on the one hand, economy, and on the other hand, nature. The problem here is that the benefits of nature are enormous, but they are also multifolded. They diffuse in all kinds of directions forever and ever. The economy, on the other hand, is very focused at getting at assets, at exploiting. And the benefits that you get from exploitation tend to be very concentrated. So on the one hand, you have intensive activity to gain primarily in the short term. And on the other hand, you have these benefits that, accrue to everyone, to our future. Now, a couple of 1,000 years ago, or a couple of hundreds years ago, this didn't matter, Nature was had endless provision of assets and values. But today, the situation is different. Humanity has evolved. Our economy is expanding by the day. The limits that nature, are up against are crumbling. And still, this necessary adjustment, to take account of the bigger picture and the long term, is not quite happening. Now, so nature-based solutions is, of course, in a sense, a tool, but it connects with nature. It's about using nature for specific purposes, for generating value. And what you have in here is basically information, collected by IUCN and our friends Charles. I don't have to go through this. The benefits of bringing, restoring and bringing nature back in this kind of way are enormous, because it is about reconnecting with nature. Now, so what about the resources? What about the engagement, the innovation, the value creation that can come around nature-based solutions? So today it's primarily public, money. It's about government putting some money in. And as you all know, the guy who's arriving here in Davos today, what's happening in the world, these resources are also drying up. But already before that, we knew that if nature-based solutions are going to have a chance, there has to be involvement by private sector, by people on the ground. And this kind of map of the proportion of resources, public versus private, was drawn up, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And there was this vision that by 2030, we have to have this kind of amount of private funding, not just to scale in terms of resources, but also in terms of getting that engagement, that innovation, that capability and management and engagement of people and stakeholders to manage and create value out of nature-based solutions. Now, but like for nature itself, it's really hard because, again, those value chains are complex. And it's hard for, private investors to put in that funding and to get the kind of return that, is the kind of the logic, as we already, and that the economy is sort of based on. Now, so of course there are tools. And these tools are more and more researched, and they are studied, they are also experimented with, and there are cases where private sector, engaged. And there is blended funding, and there are nature credits or carbon credits, and risk, has to be managed. Insurance companies are there. They are talking about it. Some of them are doing some things. Even central banks are talking about how insurance companies need to act. So there is this entire portfolio, and don't misunderstand me here. This is very important. And progress needs to continue, and we have to work with this. But it's still very hard. Now, so let's take a look at the financial sector. This is going to be very simplistic in a sense, but I think it's quite critical. We talk a lot about the funding not being available. And then, there is this incredible paradox with all that money that is out there in the world. The liquidity is just, it's just unbelievable. The money is floating in billions and billions, day by day, hour by hour, even minute by minute. But it's not hooking on. It's not supporting, what's there for the long term. So what's happening? We have the financial intermediaries. They are managing trillions and trillions. But, their KPIs are totally different. And, when it comes to nature and those benefits, of course, the challenges of measurement, of valuation, of managing those risks, the financial intermediaries, lack those competencies, and they are not connected. We are living in we talk about silos and separated worlds. So, people don't connect. So, the costs of due diligence. The European Central Bank, was asked by the European Commission a couple of years back to make a study of the means, the way forward for private sector to invest in nature-based solutions in Europe. And Central Bank observed that 3% only of the funding in Europe comes from, these kinds of financial actors. And they observed that, the cost of due diligence for these institutions means that you would have to have at least 10 million euros in a project, for the financials to even look at it, because the costs of due diligence are just, too high. So the problems of disaggregation are very serious. And then, you have all of that of greenwashing, the problems with disinformation. So how are you going to know, how are you going to verify what's real and what's not? But, the financial intermediaries are not just, what we can talk about when we talk about finance. So on the one hand now, you have the project developers, those people on the ground that are out there, and they're actually working and trying to get things done. And there are many, there are millions. And IUCN is trying to support them. And there are many others who are trying to work with them. Then you have those financial intermediaries. And then you have the population at large. And we already heard the remarks here, and we saw on the slides that you have in the beginning. Most people out there in the world actually are concerned. They may be scared totally off, if it's, they're confronted too fiercely by what's going on. But they actually care. And there are a number of studies to show that they are also willing to invest. But they don't have the channels. And how are you going to verify? You see something, you're going to give money. How do you know that it matters? So the population at large is actually holders, although now you have all that inequality. But they are the ones who hold the money that the financial intermediaries play with, and they care. So a point here is that if we're going to get out of this, we can't have the finance just disconnected on the left-hand side. And you have humanity there and you have nature. You have to work out the ways of connecting with real value generation and care for long-term and the wider benefits in mind. There are various kinds of financial instruments. There are market prices, there are means of commercializing some benefits, but there are also public goods. And you need a spectrum of instruments developed. And with the general public, AI and the tools that technology bring to put in our hands, if we use them for this purpose, can connect people with projects in a direct way, bypassing the financial intermediaries, subjecting the financial intermediaries to competition in this regard, and realizing project development. There are examples of this. There is in France. We are working on some of them. We are discussing with partners. So this we have to advance on. And of course, in parallel, we mustn't forget, but it's very hard. The wider systemic issues also have to be addressed. The cost of capital, actually, acting, punishing back, against those who are free riding and who use leakage strategies to actually dismantle and prevent others from taking action. There are the insurance companies, that really, today don't do their job because, moral hazard. Governments will bail them out, or they just stop insuring when the time comes. So we have a huge systemic failure. We cannot just, wait for that to be resolved. People have to be engaged, and people also have to put the pressure on, institutions have to put the pressure on to also address the systemic issues and at the same time work bottom up. Not easy, but we have to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Andersson. I think it was really enlightening to see this linkage in between the financial flows and the need of having system solutions for green funding. It's also interesting to see that the general public has a role to play, and today we do have technology, we do have everything we need to just combine actions and drive systemic change. Let me now hand over to my colleague Charles Karangwa, who's the head of the NBS Hub at IUCN Secretariat. Charles comes from a very deep experience in the regions. He was operating in the regions of IUCN. Beyond being the director of the hub, he's also the advisor to our president on climate, nature, and NBS-related challenges. Over to you, Charles,
Thank
to
you.
give us a deep dive on the NBS, IUCN NBS High Integrity Standard.
Thank you, Paola. Good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here and pleased to address you this morning. More importantly, I'm very happy to see our former boss, always a boss, Dr. Bruno Oberle, the former Director General of IUCN, but also a very good mentor and friend of mine, to be specific. So thank you, Bruno, for joining this session. I would talk about, it's a continuity really of what Thomas mentioned. We have a problem. Nature-based solution is no longer a concept. It's under action from private sector, from public sector, from communities. Everyone is talking about nature-based solutions. And the bigger question is, what is it? How do we scale it up? And how do we actually implement credible solutions? My first slide really is to tell you about IUCN. It's always important to know who we are talking about. We are talking about the network of members. We are quite a large organization, which is composed of governments and civil society members. But more importantly, focuses really on influencing policy, delivering action at scale for nature, but at the same time, making sure that people are at the center of everything that we are doing. And you will know pro-IUCN from many of the tools and instruments that we do. We don't talk about this a lot, but we are very known from all these amazing tools that exist and are used globally, from the global biodiversity framework to climate to development pathways to investment. And nature-based solution is part of that ecosystems tools and frameworks that IUCN have been developing and working on for many years. I work for a global nature-based solution management hub, and I want to mention a couple of things we do before we start. We really focus on product delivery, at the same time strengthening leadership on this topic of nature-based solution, which actually IUCN have been developing for the last 2 decades. So mostly working on prospecting high integrity nature-based solutions, deploying a pipeline of investable projects to investors from public sector to private sector, but at the same time capacitating institutions to deliver on this promise of nature-based solutions. We do have more proximity to countries, to regions, through what we call regional nature-based solution hubs, which are really there to support policy, invest in innovation, catalyzing finance, and also curating on nature-based solutions. And these slides will be available. That's why I'm not delaying. So far we are present across the globe. From Europe, we have a regional hub for Europe in Germany, and actually looking forward to a national hub, hopefully in Switzerland very soon, unveiled. We are in Africa, in Asia, but also looking forward to South America and North America as well. And going to nature-based solutions, I just want to demystify that nature-based solution is not new. So this has been evolving over the last several decades. And what just happened was to have a multilateral framing of this through the United Nations Environmental Assembly, but also through IUCN constituency. And as you can see from 2000, the terms have been used all through, and until it was mainstreamed across all United Nations decision from biodiversity to UNCCD, which is the land, to climate language from the early 2000 going to 2025. IUCN was part of this process and very, very, very proud partner and of being part of the co-founders of this concept. And IUCN launched a powerful tool or framework to help this in early 2021, where we launched the global standard for nature-based solutions, and I'll come back to that. But what is it? What are we talking about? Again, people have different definitions, but I will stick to what IUCN have actually availed and what multilaterally have been agreed as the definition of nature-based solutions. And nature-based solutions are not just words, they are actions. And that's, for me, very important. They are actions to restore, to protect, to manage ecosystems, at the same time deliver on biodiversity promises, very important, deliver on human well-being promises, but also deliver on investment resilience, deliver on adaptation, deliver on climate, etc. So they are really actions. It's very important to note that. They're not just like, we keep talking about it. We have to do it. And they deliver on several of the goals. The good thing of nature-based solutions is that it doesn't allow silos in action to happen. It has to deliver on both climate, but also on biodiversity, but at the same time on human well-being. People are always at the center of nature-based solution impact. So how we measure that, that's why Sustainable Development Goals are part of the puzzle of nature-based solutions. And as a matter of fact, nature-based solution was framed within that framework of Sustainable Development Goals, delivering on SDGs together with the nature and people at the center. And again, one of the big questions, why we're talking about the credibility here, and is addressing the question of, can nature-based solution actually be a transformative framework for banks and private sector companies? I think it's no longer really a question. Nature-based solution provides huge benefits to investors. They are no longer questions. There have been a lot of studies on this. There are facts, there are numbers behind nature-based solutions, not only from risk management of investment, not only from a dependence of supply chains, but also from actually return on investment as it is. And of course, some people ask me questions about why would investors care? Why is it really investable? Does it work? Does it not work? And we will hear more details today on a panel where actually private sector will reveal and talk about why they are interested in this framework and this concept. But there are a couple of areas that we need probably to consider here. Nature laws absolutely, as Thomas said, represent a big systemic threat to investment portfolios. And we have seen that already across in the last few months. This is in the UK in 2024 in January, when that flood hit hard the UK. And insurance such as Aviva will tell you how much actually they invested in that particular situation. And this is a big eye-opening when we talk about resilience of investment, resilience of different people, etc. And I just was reading this, this is in Myanmar, when the whole supply chain got interrupted by just a road cut because of the heavy rains and the likes. And I would imagine how much loss that happens in that particular week. So there are big signals that unless we take action and work with nature, we won't be able to be more resilient. So there have been really a lot of signals over the last many years. But what are the risks? If we are talking about nature-based solutions, all of us, from big banks, they are all like, we are going nature-based solutions. And I sit a lot in this conversation globally. I talk to many people. In fact, I spoke to one of the big banks recently. They told me, for us bank, we love solutions. And I'm sure everyone loves solutions. That's why we are actually fully interested in nature-based solutions, because we think there is a solution there. So, but what are the risks? What are the blind spots? And I think the truth is what Thomas said, the greenwashing is likely another risk that we need to afford. And we need instruments that can help us to actually manage that. So the IUCN have worked a lot on that. We have unveiled the global standard, which helps to counter those risks of greenwashing and develop credible investments. And the objective of really this standard is to provide a robust, evidence-based, science-based framework to measure, to design, to implement credible nature-based solutions. So this is available, and as you can see, we have 8 criteria, very amazingly well designed. We have updated it recently, more user-friendly and seamless, and happy to talk about that. And what does this do, basically? When you apply that, it gives you a clear picture of how you comply with this, and the risk, and how you can improve on your investment. This is just a visual way on how you see your report when you use this standard. You can see where you are weak, and you develop measures to actually improve that. And there have been already companies and institutions that are already applying the global standard. And this is just an example of Société Générale, which is using this standard to assess and make decisions on their investments. They're already doing that. We have already worked with the Coca-Cola on similar, a huge, big fund for nature-based solution to address water replenishment issues. And of course, we are also working with other development banks and other companies, and we look forward to work with you on that. So one of the opportunity going forward we have is, of course, to continue and collaboratively. We are seeing signals of big funds on nature-based solutions, and they want to support that to make sure they are credible, they invest in really high return, not only return from financial return, but also impact on biodiversity and people. We are setting up and looking forward to develop a recognition scheme which will be allowing people to claim that they are doing nature-based solutions, and we are also putting a lot of emphasis on deploying this capacity to national level in Switzerland, but also in many other countries in the world, and hopefully offering a capacity building to private sector and everyone who is involved in implementation of these solutions. I will leave you with this last slide. If you're interested in more, you can scan that, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much, Charles. That was really, get all the applause which is for you. Thank you very much, really, looking at how everything evolved since the launch of the IUCN Global Standard on Nature-Based Solution and where we are right now, and the partnerships and the need of using the framework more and more also in the financial sector is really exciting, but it's also very encouraging because we need all the actors. We need, I cannot stress more what you just said, we need to explore further collaborations to apply this framework and to address this kind of dichotomy between economy and nature, and to look at nature as a valuable asset that comes with that. Now, let me give the floor to Marc Vogt, who's the Managing Director of In-Finitude. Voilà. And I also want to acknowledge Bruno Oberle here in the room as the chairman of In-Finitude and a friend of IUCN. Over to you, Marc.
Paula, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, to be here despite Trump visit today. You're here. That means the CIA, the NSA, the Swiss spy service didn't arrest you at the border of Davos. So I'm really happy to be with you, and thanks for IUCN to have supported this initiative today. Thanks to SCOR and AXA Group to be with us, Anicet to be with us, Blueyou, and Thomas. It's unfortunately not too much people, but we will get to quality, and from small we can be big. So, and Switzerland is small, but somehow it's big. And I want to introduce you to the collaboration under the lead of IUCN, a project that is doing IUCN, In-Finitude, and Ecolance, Quartzlance is here in the room with us. And we want to establish a hub for Switzerland as part of really this dynamic. Yesterday I was at the Nature Positive film premiere, and we are at risk. Okay, so there's a transition now. We are close to a tipping point, and we have now to take our responsibility about the issues of our society, and especially about our respect for nature. Charles is always saying nature is our partner, so we have to treat our partner as it is really a partner in life. And why a Swiss hub now is actually, hey, Switzerland is very far with environmental topics. We have clean technology, we have the laws, we have a lot of NGOs, companies, we have a framework, we have a biodiversity strategy. So we have everything to really enhance this dynamic, and why not collaborate with IUCN and the world to share our knowledge and make those projects in a way that is are resilient and bankable. And therefore, Switzerland can have a big part in this process. As Thomas already said before, and Charles, I mean, I don't need to rewrite recreate the wheel. It's a strategic asset. NBS helped to really define value and on-site by having a recognized standard. Then we have an overview about what is the resilience of the project and how I can copy actually this, how could I say that, capacity to create long-term efficient value for society, environment, and economic. And by the way, now we can see the market require that. In Switzerland, FIDMA have made a risk analysis about climate and the portfolio and the economy in Switzerland. More banks are interested. SCOR today is going to make an announcement about the strategy about nature. Now every system, organization, and people are aware that we are a threat and we have to develop something together. So, as Charles already explained, 8 indicator, 27, 8 criteria, 27 indicator, easy framework to implement for planning, for auditing, for controlling, for participating, for communicating too. And that's why this holistic approach behind the certification of the standard or the recognition of certification behind the standard is great, because we have a common holistic vision how to implement an environmental project or a nature solution on site. So the role of the Swiss hub, as Charles before said, it's going to be like a regional hub. What we want to be is the how can I say it? And I'm sorry with my English when I have a talk like this. It's very sometimes emotional. So we want to be the layer between the Swiss IUCN's know-how and Switzerland's know-how in order to be able to really gain access to data, to methodology, to expertise on both sides that helps to make the quality of those projects more resilient. And to be a technical assistant organization that help all other organizations that can be public, private, or non-profit to be able to really master the implementation of the standard. So the core function is going to translate the IUCN into operational framework and practice to support the project from the early stage until implementation, to enhance the building capacity of those projects and the people around it, because one thing that is really important is to understand all those criteria, all those indicators, which information do I need, how to respond, which kind of expertise should be involved in order to enhance the quality of my project, plus to have a complete transparency about how to implement, who is participating, because actually transparency is a key, as data, knowledge, and experience has to be shared, because it's a common problem that we have to solve quick. And if everything is secret, or if everybody keep it on their own, we will not have the possibility to create a really strong dynamic in order to preserve nature. So it's really important that we have this transparency and that can all organizations be involved in a common goal. So why to engage on site? For insurance company, it has the advantage to better understand the risk, to make their models on measuring risk stronger, to participate to the common good, because resilience is at the core of insurance business, and to be really able to masterize the risk and give a value on this risk. For banking investors, too, is like, okay, in which portfolio do I invest? Is my portfolio stable? What are the return on invest? And sometimes it is not seen as a benefit to sustain nature-based solution, but actually, as Charles before said, no, it's worth it to invest in nature-based solution. Latest publication was made with 83 studies on the Alpine region and how nature-based solution actually foster an increase from $1 invested to $3 outcome. So it has a huge potential, even in Switzerland, to implement nature-based solution. On the side of consultancy, that's a new business. Okay, you have new auditing possibility, you have new methodology that you can implement, you can combine all the standards inside the process of the standardization of the IUCN standard, and you can develop new innovative product or promote your product in a new innovative way. And last but not least, but NGOs can use the standards to make data more credible, to test if some projects are really NBS implemented, yes or no. So all of those actors can have a benefit by engaging in this hub. And now we are setting up, or the idea would be to set it up for 2026. We are looking for a pilot project that will involve multiple stakeholders. And we are looking for partnership that want to participate as a pilot project, as we are in discussion now with René here from Blueyou, as others, but we're in discussion with the Swiss government. We have other projects in the portfolio, and you are welcome to contact us if you are interested to implement the standard inside your activities. Thank you very much. Paola.
Thank you, Marc. That's really exciting to create, to set up an NBS hub in Switzerland, which I couldn't agree more, provides an amazing ecosystem to boost partnerships, but also to make sure that we share transparently what's going on at project level, and also, I mean, the huge potential for all the stakeholders we saw. Now, let me give the floor to Aurelie, excuse my French, FALLON, Saint-Lô, and Henri Douche, respectively from AXA and SCOR, for an announcement. This is what we were waiting for, right? Over to you.
Sorry, so I don't have any micro, but okay, perfect, sorry. So, yeah, I am Aurelie FALLON-Saint-Lô, Head of Sustainable Underwriting for AXA Group. So you know that as an insurance company, of course, we are directly impacted by climate change and the physical risk of climate change. But what is really clear is that more than the more frequent and severe natural and climate events we see, the main factor is the change in exposure, change in land use, change in urbanization that drive really the huge amount of increased cost due to climate peril. So what is now very clear is we need to restore nature. More than half of wetlands worldwide have disappeared. So we have lost good concrete tools to, as it has been explained, to reduce flood risk and many other benefits. So as AXA, we invest in research, more than 60 million euro a year. We invest in philanthropy to restore nature. We are investor in nature restoration, but as an insurer, and I am in the underwriting part, we wanted to have concrete solution, concrete insurance to secure the potential, the future and current financing in nature restoration. And before few days, there were no solution for investors to secure their financing in nature restoration. So I met Henri 1 year ago at the COP 15 or 16, this one, sorry, in Cali, because we had at AXA this idea, but not. It was still in R&D, and because the urgent is there, and we need effectiveness, and we need to be very quick to act now. When I met Henri and he explained me what they have developed in SCOR, we thought, okay, seeing the market, which is very small, let's not duplicate and compete on this key solution, but let's partner and join our capacities and strength, AXA SCOR, to deliver an innovative and concrete product to restore naturation. So I will let Henri explain you his baby, but we are both passionate about this product now, and we hope you will like it. And we are very happy to hear your feedbacks as well, of course.
Good morning, everybody. So my name is Henri Douche. I'm the head of product and innovation at SCOR, so a reinsurance company, new partner of AXA. We announced it to the press yesterday, so we are very proud. My challenge is to summarize 3 years of work in 5 minutes. So this morning we heard nature positive finance, nature-based solution, standards-based approach, right? So I'll try to show what we did exactly in the same logic, so it fits very nicely with everything we've seen this morning. So everything started, and I will go very fast on this one because I don't think I have to convince anyone that ecosystems are important for all kind of ecosystem services. This is something we discovered, right? When we start to do our homework, they are at risk of collapse, but there is hope because we see some stakeholders investing, as we mentioned, investing in ecosystem restoration. But, as always, money is often the issue, right? Financing is missing. So on one side, we found people willing to restore ecosystems. On the other side, we had people with capital willing to invest. And the flow is not perfect. So our role was, can we bring something to the table? Can we ease the financing by de-risking part of this investment? As Aurelie was mentioning, if you want to invest 100 million to build a highway, you will need a construction insurance. Of course, nobody will do a project of a highway without construction insurance. Today, there is a project of 100 million in ecosystem restoration without insurance. If something goes wrong, what do we do, right? So the first thing was to understand how people in the ecological world thinks. They think long-term, 20, 30, 50 years. First, you're going to take an ecosystem at a low integrity level. You will implement plan, and then you will bring at a high integrity level. That means, at the contrary of construction, for example, that your level of vulnerability is going down because your ecosystem is older, more installed, more stable, more resilient. Capital, you invest a lot at the beginning, then you manage, and then you have a stable monitoring conservation plan. The story here was, when we talk with a lot of organizations, including IUCN, WWF, Society for Ecological Restoration, they understood and said, yeah, this is how we think, right? And now, the next game was on our side, how do we see that as insurers? If you look at that as an insurer, you think, well, the risk profiles are different, right? So we turned that into 3 different products. One specialized on the implementation phase, the second one on the monitoring, the manage, sorry, and then the third one, we are still working on it. It's not really, because there is some tweaks that we need to do to the product to be very efficient. I'm an agronomist. I love weather data, plant models. I love parametric products, insurance, parametric insurance. It doesn't work for everything. So when we started, I thought this is great. And then finally, some people told us, well, maybe you should think in a different way. We decided not to go for a parametric in this specific case. It's not to say that parametric is bad. Parametric is good, but not for everything. Here, how does that work? We have a plan in order to bring our ecosystem from low integrity to high integrity. If something goes wrong, fire, flood, heat wave, frost, bit of property, bit of agri, bit of forestry, then the insurance will kick in, and the claims money will serve to re-implement the work that has been destroyed. So you invest 10 million. After 2 years, you have a big flood. 50% of the saplings died, you need to replant. This is paid by the insurance. So basically, we help the projects to go back on track, without having to reinvest from the project side. One comment we had from people from the ecology world was, "You're going to make projects easier," and we were super proud. But then they say, "Yeah, but what about if it's a bad project?" Yeah, but we are an insurance company. We don't know if it's a ecologically bad or good projects. So we partner with an organization called the Society for Ecological Restoration, and we developed with them some specific standards for ecological restoration insurance. They are completely aligned. We checked that, of course, because we looked what was on the market. So completely aligned with what you described this morning with the IUCN standards, a bit more specialized, on ecological restoration and the insurance piece. And what we do when we have a client coming to us with a plan, we send the plan to the SER. They review it as an independent party, and then they come back to us with a grading: C, B, A, AA, AAA. C and B, we don't insure because it's not good enough, ecologically speaking, independently from the risk. A, AA, AAA, we insure. AA, AAA, we give a discount on the premium. That's our way to incentivize good practices. We think we have a role as an insurer is to de-risk. We have a responsibility, and that's to choose what we want to de-risk. Last slide. Maybe I'll be all right with my 5 minutes, right? The question is, yeah, but who is that for? Well, basically for the projects. So all the people involved in the projects, from the initiating the projects, financing the projects, implementing the projects, executing the project. If you cut that in two, left or right, on the left side, you have people owning the project. And for them, they sleep better if their capital is protected and they know that the project will carry on, even if there is something wrong happening. On the other side, we talk to a lot of people that are project implementers. For them, having a project that has been reviewed, graded, and insured, well, ease a lot the access to capital. So it's easier when you go to an asset manager and you're asking for money if you present a project that is already insured. So it took us a lot of time. We had to start somewhere. We started with ecological restoration. Now we are working on the next phases to have it broader. So this is our NatReco initiative. The first solution is about, and we heard about the word solution this morning, is about ecological restoration. We are working on new topics. And on this one, we thought that having a global reach and a global franchise would be super important. So we partner SCOR and AXA in order to distribute that. And we would be more than happy to have your feedback, questions, and ideas on this. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was quite something. That was quite an announcement. Thank you very much for sharing it with us. I personally think this is amazing, particularly the last bit when you talked about this is a guarantee to access capital for all these kind of projects, which is sometimes...
It's not a guarantee, it's a strong help.
It can help.
It helps a lot.
But it also helps the integrity of programs on the ground, which is sometimes a little bit of an issue in some kind of area. So thank you very much. Now we start the second part of this session, which is an interactive panel led by my colleague Charles. You can invite on stage your guests. Slowly but surely, I'm going to get down. Like this is my first Davos disabled version. And then we will wrap it up. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. My God, I feel like...
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paola. Okay, maybe Aurelie, you don't need to go down. So
there's a microphone on the chair.
I'm very pleased to moderate a very interactive panel with great speakers here. It gives me a pleasure to welcome you again, Aurelie, our Head of Sustainable Underwriting from AXA. Please have a seat. And then I'll invite René Benguerel, founder and director of Blueyou. Welcome, René. And you will learn more about Blueyou. Very pleased to welcome Mr. Anicet Munyehirwe, a founder of Twahirwa Foundation. So, Paola, you did very well to pronounce that. It was great. And then, of course, my partner and friend, Marc Vogt, please have this. So, friends, we are going to spend some time this morning interacting with the audience here. We'll have time for Q&A, but we want to focus on scale, action, but also credibility. And from all the presentation you have seen already this morning, it looks like we know what is the problem. It looks like we know what is the solution. It looks like we have all the ingredients, partnerships. Apparently, things are working, are happening. But there's one thing that we don't know, and that's what we will focus on this morning, is why are we not actually making progress? Maybe we are making progress. There might be good news, so I want to hear from you. And allow me to start with you. Absolutely, Aurelie, you have the microphone. There's this narrative which we keep hearing, and I'm really glad to see the launch of this initiative. Congratulations. I had interacted with some of your team when this was being developed, hopefully giving some ideas. But one question I have for you is, what is stopping corporates to integrate nature-based solutions into their risk management? And if it's happening, what are the successful factors that we can actually learn from this room?
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's working. Sorry. So, thank you very much for this question. So you've seen that now we try to scale and to really innovate to help for nature-based solution, restoration, and so. But into our risk management at AXA, it is true that we haven't started by developing a product. We've started by doing the easiest, let's say. Easy, not for all, but by implementing into our risk management some restriction on high impacting activities for climate and for nature. So we started by climate, of course, and since 2015, we were the first insurer to really implement strong commitments on coal and to fully exceed coal by 2030 for OECD country and 2040 for non-OECD country, with different thresholds. Same for oil and gas. When the International Energy Agency report net to on the road to net zero, because we want also to follow science and to have tangible resources. So we look at all what's going on in terms of scientific trajectory. So we based our energy policy on this report mainly. And so this is what we first implemented really into the risk management to make sure that when we underwrite activities and companies, we don't enable, let's say, high risk on nature and climate. And on biodiversity and nature, we have also specific policies on deforestation and natural world site heritage. But it's not enough. It's not enough because we are not the only insurer of the world. And even if we don't want, many others will insure. And so it raises other issue, even if on coal and all together with banks and finance, we've seen that a lot has been accomplished. And we also engage with companies, and we have seen strong decrease trajectory. So it's a way, to help accelerating transition. But we are a company, a private company, so we need also to do business. And we want to steer also opportunities, of course, with this transition, ecological transition and the energy transition. So now we really have a big focus on how we can support energy transition and ecological transition through all the new technologies and new risks. So we need to understand all those new risks and technologies that will drive the shift into a low-carbon economy. And in nature, scaling, what we've really seen is that we hear a lot of billions of euros or dollars needed to really achieve the Koenig and Montreal goals. As we said, 700 billions are necessary, dollars are necessary to achieve the 30% restoration worldwide, but we don't really see concretely all those investments, even if they are increasing. So, yeah, again, as an insurer, what we can do, we can provide insurance, and this is why we have developed this one.
Thank you. And I think you absolutely touched a very important point. There's always a leader in every process. So we appreciate the access leadership and SCOR and other companies that are doing this. And I love how you mentioned the risk management aspect. But you are sitting with René, who is a private investor.
Private company.
A private company, but also a private investor, of course, both. René, sometimes we actually hear a story from private sector. They keep saying that, nature-based solutions are just for public. There shouldn't be reason for private sector to invest in nature-based solutions. What drives your interest as a private sector in nature-based solutions? And of course, I'm also still keeping my notes on what I already have said on the risk. But from private sector, what really drives your motivation as Blueyou, and you will tell us more about Blueyou as well, to invest in nature-based solutions? Where do you see opportunities?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Charles. Well, basically, if you look at our companies in the food sector, right, and if you look at nature-based solutions and you consider how we produce our food globally, then clearly we went completely off the track, right? Because producing food, per definition, should actually be a nature-based solution because we need to produce food with nature and sunlight. But our system is completely going in the opposite way, right? If you look at the planetary boundaries and today's challenges, the global food system is actually the key driver for biodiversity loss, for ecosystem degradation, for freshwater depletion, and for everything. So as an entrepreneur in the food sector, we have been always working on nature-based solutions and try to figure out how to produce food in balance with nature, respecting the planetary boundaries and not exceeding them, right? So for us, the concept of nature-based solution is actually a very welcome concept because it helps us communicating what we're doing. So Blueyou is a restorative seafood company. We are restoring degraded habitats, mostly mangrove forests, by integrating mangroves into farms where farms are degraded. And with the mangroves, we bring back the productivity, we activate aquatic food webs, and we design polyculture models for shrimp, crab, fish, mollusks, oysters, clams to thrive in one system without any inputs, right? So we're kind of producing high-value, healthy proteins in reforested areas, like the mangroves become the key driver of the food web. Farmers are harvesting high-value crops, and we're just converting sunlight into proteins. And there's no feed, no fertilizers, no chemicals. So the systems we're designing and operating with small-scale farmers in Asia, I believe by definition this is a nature-based solution, and we also add the livelihood and the economy component where we can create food systems that bring back the balance between nature and people. And that has always been driving our mission. So if you ask me why, I mean, the food industry is not necessarily currently interested in investing in nature-based solutions, because the food industry actually lives and makes its money from all the inputs, like the feed, the chemicals, the fertilizers, the pharmaceuticals. That is driving the investment feasibility, that is driving the bankability, and it's driving the profitability of the food industry. But all these inputs are driving the planet into a danger zone, right? So what we're doing is we go completely against the current and try to kind of recreate food systems that, that actually create food. Regenerative farming, like the regenerative farming, in my view, is a very important aspect. And I believe for the food industry, the nature-based solution proposal and the standard and what can come with it to make it bankable, to make it visible, to make it credible, can actually become quite an important driver for change. That's kind of our mission.
Thank you. I think that's a very, very good news and very good case studies of actually how nature-based solution can drive sustainable food production that is also high quality, not only high quality, but also with great economic returns. And I want to skip Anicet for a reason, but go to Marc. René is coming from a private company, and you have been talking to different companies. And we have been working together over the last year on actually deploying support to companies and the public sector on investing in nature-based solutions, reassuring them. But you have mostly looked at the pain points, the biggest barriers of these companies that are really stopping them from investing. And I would want you to elaborate on that. Where are those barriers from the last market assessment that you have been doing in Switzerland and probably outside? And how do you see actually the Swiss hub, for example, addressing some of those gaps, reassuring companies that we are here to help?
So thank you, Charles. Yes, as I was saying before, we are a kind of a limit where lots of companies, because it's at the end risks, and as they don't really understand what are nature-based solutions and they need best practices, they need always, and for all the projects, it's like the first mover to show, no, it is working. So they are somehow waiting about the first who is making the step and said, okay, because this one is making the step, then I can come. Because there's so much uncertainties behind it and so much people involved. And the second problem that we have is, and it's somehow based with consciousness, it's like not everybody do agree with the way how we implement and how we can have benefit. And I think one key issue behind this, especially when you talk about nature-based solution, is what is the definition, how to measure it, and how to train the people to understand it. And most of the time, because of the educational background that we have, the information is kind of diffuse and not in a kind of common sense. So when we can try to find processes that help to educate in a common sense, then it will be easier to make the implementation and reduce the risk. That's why the standard is great with those 8 criteria and 27 indicators, because it's a holistic approach how to really measure the resilience of a project by involving all the stakeholders. So we have a common discussion that can be implemented. And the second part, and that's great what you were saying before, Henri, because it's transition. Lots of time is like, why should I take the risk for the others? I mean, the thing, but somehow I will come back to Trump. Trump is taking a lot of risks because he just thinks he's the best. And then follow me. But that's true. That's why he's so successful in, bracket. But if we come back about this transition, because we are living within a transition, so just to understand, that's now the education point that I want to make. It's like the transition. And the transition is very important to have partners who said, I will help you to take the risk. Especially we see that in Switzerland, where lots of farmers didn't support the biodiversity initiative because they were directly concerned, but unfortunately there were no program to help them to support the risk, like, hey, I want to transform, but you know, I'm every day on the field, it's very hard for me, you know that, huh? You study that, nobody is helping me, I have taxes, I have competition outside, so, and why should I take the risk on myself when I'm waking up at 6 in the morning and I'm sleeping at 10, and it's a hard work. So I need help to transition, and your solution is a great kick to help that, because you help to mitigate the risk.
Thank you. I think you are probably bringing a very critical question here of the fear of taking a risk because of lack of data, lack of measurement framework, lack of all ingredient that can give you assurance that actually I'm doing that. And you talked about the issue of capacity. I think the understanding of nature-based solution has also been evolving and different meaning for different people. And that's why we think capacity building is also a critical. Yeah, but now you are bringing an issue of a farmer on the ground who have his own issues and problems and difficulties on his production, on his landscape. And the money is sitting somewhere in Switzerland with a banker or an insurance company who is saying, I have money, but I don't have where to invest. So that's why I'm very happy to have Anicet here, who runs a foundation which really work with farmers on the ground to deploy solutions. So Anicet, there's this big bubble of narrative, which I have had for the last 20 years, that we have money, but we don't have projects. We have, I mean, I have to confess that I've been on panels where investors openly say, I have got 600 million for the last 10 years. I only got 2 projects in restoration. Restoration is not bankable, it's not profitable, it's a big risk. I'm really very happy with your product, AXA and SCOR, because this is going to be a game changer in the restoration sector. So Anicet, are there solutions that works on the ground that need scale? And what is stopping that scale actually to happen?
Yeah, thank you, Charles, and thank you for inviting Twahirwa Foundation. And it's a really good opportunity. I want also to thank my partners who are supporting me, who came with me, who have been supporting the Twahirwa Foundation during the past 3-4 years that we are operating. And the big challenge we are having today is that, I think it is Thomas Anderson who said, there is a problem of connecting dots. Sometimes you get surprised when you come in these conferences, you find different solutions that are available to serve the community. For most of the time, people, they are saying we need billions of dollars to implement natural-based solution or any. We don't need a lot. We need money, but it's not the first thing we need. We in Africa, everything we are doing, it's more or less natural-based. So our farmers are planting their maize, their beans using fertilizer from cow dung and whatever. We have it. But the challenge he's getting, he's continue using natural solutions. But he doesn't know if next year there will be a problem of rain. He doesn't need your money. He doesn't know even that there are billions of money that can support him. He doesn't know it. The only thing that could be good is that he get an SMS on his phone telling him in the next season, consider not to plant the yellow beans, but plant the black beans because they will be more resistant to the drought. So we came here as a Twahirwa Foundation to call people all those solutions that are there. You might leave money, even if we need it, but we need those different solutions that are available worldwide. We have a lot of information on weather. We have a lot of information. Yes, they are not probably not precise given the area, but we have them. But how those information can serve our population at the ground, even without living here. Because if we give the information about the weather for the next season, a person will adapt himself without even asking a lot of money or asking a lot of program that is costing billions. Because we have those solutions, but we don't have like those information that is needed. Like banks, insurance, and other people, they are there, but they don't have those tools. If there are tools that have been developed that can help them, those tools, we have them here. They have been there for a lot of years. How many banks, how many insurance companies are aware of the tools of assessing natural-based solution? Few knows it. But also we came to say if there is a lot of money that are available, we as a Twahirwa Foundation, we are not only seeing one single activities, because the problem that have been there, that have been even the main risk is that we go to the field, someone is saying, I'm doing agroforestry only, or I'm doing food security only, I'm doing this, but when you go to the field and you want to implement all those projects, you see a farmer holistically. Because if you are telling him to plant a tree, you have tomorrow to make sure that you have a solution how he will bring his child to school. You have to think about the income generated. So we have to think holistically. So we are calling a lot to more collaboration and partnership, and giving the tools that are available. I think in these rooms there are a lot of people who have been developing different tools that can help in implementing. First, before getting the money, give us those tools. Collaborate with us to get those tools on the field. Indicate us which products or that could be useful for our population. Without this collaboration, we will not move. We also need money, but not as so big as you think to make an impact. We don't have a lot of billions that are being spoken around. We need some tailored financing system, but financing products. So if it is at a different stages, you get someone who's coming, a bank is saying, no, for us, we only finance this part. Find another, someone who will going to a grant. Once you get a grant and you are sure that the value chain is operating, come to me. And you get someone who's ready to give a grant, but the bank is not available. So we need to put people together. We will not get one single financial products that can advance NBS. We need different people who are working together. If you are not working, because the nature is a diverse of different things. So banks, the investors, researchers, and there is that collaboration, and we come as a package to deliver those solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for really sharing that story of the gap in sharing knowledge. I think generally we love duplicating everything. I love how René and not René, Henri and Aurelie mentioned of not really starting from scratch or duplicating, but building on what you had already realized could work, and that's already bearing fruits. But I think the biggest challenge we are also seeing is that continuous duplication of what's happening. So sharing knowledge, sharing best practices, exchanging information, building these strong partnerships, bringing this branded finance, you mentioned the grants and other products, etc., probably could be an unlocking. So I'm looking at the audience to see if there are questions before we do a second round of our question to our panelists. So is there a question? So there's a mic that is available, and we could put it in the room. So if you have a comment or a question, please feel free to raise your hand, and then I will see you. Okay, so we have 1, and then 2, and then 3. Okay.
Thank you very much for the interesting discussion. My name is Anja from the Green Digital Finance Alliance. And what I'm taking away is that what we need to scale nature-based solution is about standards, then also measuring with integrity, and then also potentially insurance to help us de-risk. So my question to you would be if you could talk about the potential of digitalization that you see to raise the project integrity and also the bankability of nature-based solutions. So I was wondering if we were going to measuring in a digital way nature-based solutions, would that actually raise the bankability of these projects? And can you talk also perhaps to certain projects that are already happening on the ground? Thank you.
Thank you. I think happy to first respond to that $1 million question, on which has 2 parts. One is on the digitization, so opportunities for digitization of these tools, and would that increase the credibility of nature-based solutions, but also the bankability. And I want to give the floor to René from Blueyou, because probably you might also share some of the examples of the bankability of nature-based solution and how you actually measure the impact of nature-based solution on the supply chain or the value chain that you're working on.
Well, yeah, thanks for the question. I can only speak actually of our programs because that's where I'm most familiar with. And in my view, the digitalization and the underlying technology only help so far in, creating cost efficiencies for an existing program, and helps us in data capturing, data monitoring, and the rigorousness of a program, like that you can actually show data to investors or to public partners or to NGO partners. But in my view, it won't be really the driver for big transition and for scale, right? It's just a tool. For me, like for us personally, and based on our experience, it's still that's not really what you are saying. In our case, it's kind of really the bottleneck is accessing the finance and unlocking the finance for large-scale restoration. Because small-scale farmers, even if you combine 8,000, 10,000 of farmers in one big restorative food system, the farmers don't have the means to restore. So you need external funding. And it's definitely something that is currently lacking in the financial system, in my view. So, there are the grant dollars, they are limited. We can tap into them, but only to get started the program. It only brings you to a certain phase. Once you have the track record, then you need return-seeking capital, right? So you need to access private sector capital. And there we are currently working on blue carbon financing schemes as a potential means. But generally, in my view, to really unlock the capital we need, the digitalization may be a tool to help and make it more bankable. The nature-based solution standard is my hope to make it more robust, more credible, to prevent greenwashing, as we heard this morning. But the most important thing, in my view, is that we need a mind change on the investor side, because they can't talk about impact investment in private sector companies that are trying and ready to change the system. We are ready for transformation, but I can't deliver market rate returns by same time kind of healing the planet, fixing social problems, fixing climate change, bringing back biodiversity in a market like the seafood market, which is highly competitive, low margins, and our impact investors, they want us to do all these good things. but they want us to deliver the same profitability as a company that is 100% based on exploitation and degradation. So it's actually not working, right? There is a big mismatch. And my hope is to create more attention to this through the nature-based solution framework, because we also definitely need to see more walking the talk on the investor side. Because we have been talking about blended finance and patient capital and return-seeking impact-first investment. I don't really see this happening. Or not at the scale we need to see it. Maybe the insurance solution will help kicking in to make it more de-risk bankable. But the fact is, the big money out there is still seeking market-based returns. And as long as our competitors are not internalizing their external costs, we are not in an even game plan, right? And that needs to be changing.
Thank you. That's very helpful. So I see Aurelie and Anicet have a microphone. We need to be very, maybe if it's responding to the question 1 or 2 minutes each, and then we take 2 other questions, and then we'll have to ask it.
Yes, maybe quickly on how to make it bankable and quickly. We think that biodiversity credit could be a way to drive financing with, again, strong standards. But indeed, private financing need return. And we see the carbon market, voluntary carbon market, that have drive some financial flow. And so at AXA, we are involved in the organization AAPB, AAPB, to have a strong framework to create biodiversity credit. And this will be a way to drive financial flow. We have a very good example at AXA on carbon credit, because we have a Climate Seed, which is an entity that finance today carbon credit, but with co-benefits, social and environmental co-benefits. And we have financed in Mexico one Erido, San Crisanto Erido, where there is a local community that only lives thanks to the mangroves there, with fishers, but also tourism. So from that, they can have carbon credit because of the restoration of the mangroves and maintaining and preserving the mangroves. It is also insured by today a parametric insurance, because the main risk of the mangroves is cyclone. And they already had a cyclone that completely destroyed the economical activities and the mangrove. So thanks to the parametric insurance, they could restore very quickly the mangroves and help the resilience of the community. But all this is really thanks to after releasing carbon credit on the market. It's locally viable as economical activities for the people, but to get the money into the restoration of the mangrove, having the earnings for the carbon credit are very important. So we hope that I believe very strongly in biodiversity credit.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe 1 minute, and then we take one.
Yeah, I think for us, we are working with those really small farmers. We are not talking about those big projects. We need those farmers who just want some money to buy something, a tool that could be used, those credit of some small amount of money. So if we get the technology or IT to help banks, microfinances, to analyze, like to assess the project, that could be something, and which is combining, saying, if I'm going to, we have one single tool that could show how the next year is there is no risk of rainfall, there is no risk he's going to plant. If he's bringing a credit, he wants a credit to plant maize, is he planting on the land? Where are you planting you want to plant your maize? If there is a soil somewhere and there is an application that banks uses and they can assess this is the right place, they will be. The projection of rain next year are okay. There is the soil, they are not degraded because they are data that are feeded there on a daily basis. In that case, that could be a good tool that is helping those small farmers to get credit and to get understood by the banks.
So you are confirming that digitization and data could probably help mobilize finance. So I'm looking at the time. I have only 6 minutes, and I want to give a chance to one more question.
Thank you. I'm George Katrebe. I'm the CEO for the Institute for Climate Green Solutions and Innovation. My question is, hearing what you are saying and from experience, it seems to me that the people who are driving the whole agenda of sustainability and nature-based solutions don't live with the people that are affected by the negative consequences when we don't do the right things. This is what we see. Because my view is that you have people at the policy level, you have people at the financials, but the actual implementation is done on the ground. So the question is, how do we make sure that the people on the ground and where these solutions are going to be implemented connect with each other and are on the same level of understanding, so that the people who are on the ground, who are going to be impacted directly and who are going to be actually doing the donkey work or the foot soldiers work, the financing is targeted to make sure that they do it efficiently. One of the examples that I would bring up here is that, like Anicet said, these farmers, they live in their basic natural ecosystems. How can financing support them to elevate a little bit in their natural basic ecosystems so that they become a little bit aware and sophisticated? So, and in the process, the issue of risks gets diminished with time. Thank you so much.
So I will give this question to you already for 2 reasons. So basically, if I rephrase the question, it's basically asking, when we talk about the return on investments, are we actually talking about, does that include the core benefits and the transformation of livelihoods of people on the ground? Do we count that, or just look at monetary return on investment? And if we are not including that transformation on the ground, how do we actually change the investment pathways? So if you could speak to that, and I'm really sorry I would have to wrap up in a few minutes, and then I will hand over to our panelists for probably one key message that you want to leave the audience with on this conversation on investing in credible nature-based solutions. So you start and give one key message, and then we go up to Marc.
Indeed, we see that climate and nature issues directly impact people, and mainly already vulnerable people. So this is why in the standards, the social benefits are taken into account. And so I have also, just to let you know, colleagues, so there is a specific team at AXA called AXA Essentials, who really work in sustainability, but for people, providing a solution, package solution to help the small communities with a specific type of insurance for people that are usually not insured. So we really take very strongly this aspect of vulnerability, and more people that are vulnerable and are actually don't access to insurance. So we need to adapt also our product for the small communities and people that are not usually really in the sector, insurable sector, let's say.
Thank you. René, any parting key message?
Well,
couple of seconds.
Final wrap up. Well, I personally believe that the nature-based solution standard by IUCN can really be a valuable tool for the private sector to actually get into action, but also to make projects bankable, to make them robust, to make them credible, to prevent greenwashing. So I'm happy to be part of it, and thanks, Marc, for your initiative in Switzerland. So we're happy to be part of a pilot and see how we can get this moving.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, it's to call out upon all those, anyone who have those solutions, to share them with us and to make sure that we are doing something on the ground. We come to the ground. We do so. I know there is a number of things that is being done, but there is a need to do more.
Thank you. I need to do more. Marc?
Yeah, I think to summarize is we have to take the whole cycle or the whole supply chain from bottom up and educate the people at the beginning and helping them, as you were mentioning, George. They need to understand why they are at risk and what kind of education can help them to de-risk and not to feel alone, somehow to be, like supported, because if they're supported, they're motivated and they find like a common vision, like, hey, and we invest in me and I can make the change and it's valuable. So I'm an asset and valuable assets as a social being, because at the end, it's people that are implementing those projects.
Thank you.
So we have to support them and integrate that in the whole cycle of the investment.
Thank you very much. I want to kindly ask you to thank our panelists. And I will wrap up with two things that I have learned today. One, the truth is that nature-based solutions gives hope to investors, to public, but also to communities, and provide multiple benefits. It's not only about a credit, both biodiversity or carbon, but also livelihoods and economic return. The second is absolutely partnership is going to be needed to work together. And then finally, there's a need to build our capacity and scale up these solutions. So I will hand over to Paola to close the session, and thank you very much for your attention.
Wait. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as I did. It's been dynamic enough. We wanted to do more. Thank you for taking the time. There's a QR code here. Please go on it and interact with us. You also found other QR codes. We are going to be around for a few more minutes, and then we will leave to Climate Hub for the next session. Thank you very much, everyone.
And on behalf of Green Up, thank you very much. Thank you, people in the audience, and thank you to our guests and speakers. We will now need to prepare the theater for the next session. So please do stay with us, but in the foyer. And for the speakers, could you please join us on the stage and we take a group picture? Thank you very much.